Yes.
So let's hear this week, what are we moving into?
We are going into the part that talks about who is your customer.
Oh, yes, that's important.
Very important. So
Yeah.
here we go. So, folks, last week we would have talked about what do you do, and we asked you to share some ideas. And I had some people talking to me personally. A lot of you all are shy about putting your thoughts on the website, but we have some people talking about what they like to do. And some of you all did talk to your friends and you did get information from them about what they thought you were good at. And we're beginning to get excited. So just as a short recap, I want to remind us so that we continue with making sure that we have all of our our information in place. So in terms of figuring out what you can do, we talked about we're the people with experience, so we know what we don't want. We know what we like. And in the 5.8G stage, we are going to do what we like. We talked about bringing people along because it's hard for us to think about what we do well and what we like. We don't always boast. So ask a friend, bring a family member along, because this venture may be an intergenerational venture. And you may very well be starting something that a daughter or a grandchild or a friend or a neighbor or a niece or a nephew might continue with. Okay. We also said, let's be very clear about what are we happy doing. Do we like being with people and working with people? Do we prefer to be alone, working with ourselves, working with things, using our hands, building, shaping, modeling, cooking, gardening, doing deliveries? Or do we want to organize, work with people? All of those things are indicators of the kind of business we would want to do. Remember, we are in this till 2050. We say in 30 years, it's still 2050. We're in 2021 now. So you see how many years we have to go? So we have to make sure that we're doing something that we really like. And I also reminded us that what you do, what you occupy your time with, yes, it may bring you income flows, but equally important, you may decide to occupy your time with something that is a give back. It may be charitable. It may be aiming at helping your community. All of that is fine. What we are talking about is putting our creative entrepreneurial skills to work so that it is efficient, it's less stressful, and we are happy doing it. So today, before we move on to our customer, who is going to be our customer, I want us to look at a little video that talks about this whole issue of creative entrepreneurship as it relates to us in the 5.8G era. So
at Connections 50 Plus, we urge you to follow your passions, love what you do, and do what you love.
And with coaching and consultation in self-care, economic management, and social skills,
we can be well on our way to be the best years of our lives. Just as the many life forms thrive harmoniously here in this natural habitat, so too we can prosper in the golden years.
Dreams are but a shadow of our potential. Let's make our dreams become reality.
Creative entrepreneurship is our way of adapting to new environments by adopting new ways of engagement. Connections 50 Plus facilitates this transfer seamlessly. We must be on our best practice to derive rewards, for there is no other time like the present to act decisively, to participate meaningfully, and to cultivate intentionally.
We can willfully and willingly celebrate our golden years.
Okay, so we are back. So you have a sense of what you're going to do. And we're in the middle of the pandemic. it's serious. It's serious. There's an economic fallout that is yet to be measured. And for those of us in Trinidad, I know across the Caribbean, all of the governments they're trying their best to give relief. But one thing all of the pundits are saying is that the Caribbean, perhaps Guyana, with its newfound petrochemical and industries, might have a little less tough time, but the transition still is real for Guyanese. We are not going to go back to how we were for a long time. And it's going to be imperative for many of us to continue in some activity that, if not provides full income, supplements income or helps to give our children, our grandchildren a boost. So what we're talking about, creative entrepreneurship in the third act of life, we've got to be very, very careful and very sure that we're doing something that we really like, that we can be successful at, because we don't want, come 2040 or 2030, we've invested 10 years and then we're like, I don't want to be doing this, and you have to turn all the way back. So a very important thing after you figure out what are you good at and what are you going to do is to decide, where am I going to sell? Who am I going to sell to? Who is going to buy this? A lot of us sometimes, we have something that we like. It's a hobby. We can make something. We can, and we put a lot of effort and we're so proud of it. And we think that everybody must buy it. But I want to tell you that a customer is a specific and very special person. And when you have your idea of what business you want to do or what charity, you have to go raise funds. You have to think about, who am I providing this service to? Who is going to pay me for it? And there are 5 tests that you have to take yourself through to know if someone is a customer. Because very often you have a lot of people cheering you on, you know, yes, girl, go and do it. Yes, man, go and do it. And you think that they may be about who is our customer. You know, there are people who will be cheering you on. Yes, go ahead and do it. And when it's time to get sales, they're just not around, you know, and Jennifer would tell you, easy. Friends and family mightn't be the first prospect, okay? So I'm going to take you through a little metric that could help you to determine who is a customer. So you think of the thing that you are good at, that you are going to do, that you want to have as your business. First thing you have to ask yourself, who needs this? Not who wants it. Who needs it? Another way of asking a question is, what problem does this thing solve? You know, if I'm a very good dressmaker, you might be a very good dressmaker, but you have to not only make a nice dress, you have to solve somebody's problem. And if you ask yourself, the skill I have, you know, it will solve this. Remember when we were talking about what you would do, I asked you to ask people to say, what do people come to me for? Why do people come to me? What problems do they let me solve? Good, this is the flip side of it. Because the person for whom your skill solves a problem or fills a need is a likely customer. So you can make a fantastic cake, but if everybody around you don't like cake, I don't care how nice your cake is. They don't need the cake. All right. So you have to go find people who need your kind of cake. The next thing you have to ask is, now, they need it, they want it, they have the problem, they really need, but you have to ask yourself, does that person with the need and with the problem, do they have the means to pay me? Very often, the person wants it, likes it, loves it, but they can't pay for it. If the person can't pay for it, they're not a customer. So that's just 2 out of 5. So they have to need it and they have to have the capacity to pay for it. Now, sometimes I can pay and I can need, and this might sound, you have to make sure that they can make a decision about it. They can decide, yes, they want it. Who else is involved in deciding on this? Now, if you're selling a very simple thing, that's easy. The person who wants it and who is paying for it, they'll just go ahead and do the transaction. But sometimes some of us may have a complicated product. You may be able to build furniture. You may be able to help renovate houses or clean houses. You may be able to help people with gardening. Okay, you may be giving lessons. You may be helping children with their academia, or you may be training people. The person who is making the decision may be the person who needs it, maybe the person who can pay, but you may have another person in the group that has to be part of it. So you have to think about, who do I have to influence to make sure that I have a customer? So there's the person, the decision maker. All right. The fourth thing is, you might have all of that, but very often, and I'm sure when Jennifer comes back, we can talk about this one. Yes, I need it. Yes, I want it. Yes, I can pay. Yes, I'm the decision maker. Let me see, is May now? Next January. Or probably, I want to finish Christmas and I want to travel. Hello, a customer is someone who is able to do the transaction in a reasonable period. So if you're doing something like making a dress or making cakes, then they have to, come on, make the decision in a week or 2. If it's something more significant, like renovate a house, then it's going to be a longer time frame. But you have to know what time frame that you want to do your business in. And 5, the most critical question. Can you reach the customer? Can the customer reach you? Or how are you going to get your service or your product to the customer? Is it direct? Because if you're going to be delivering, if you make something and you're going to be delivering it directly, then who is going to be doing all the deliveries? All right, that may add cost. You have to think about that. Or if you're not delivering, the customer has to come to you. Are you accessible? Can people come to you with public transport? Relatively easy. Do people have to have a car or have access to a car? Is your neighborhood stranger friendly? And that is an important question for both high, middle, and low income areas. Being stranger friendly in a high income area has certain connotations. You might have to pass 2 guards. Being stranger friendly in a middle income area may cause neighbors to be checking to see, who is this car? What's going on? It's the time we're living. And being stranger friendly in a tough area is another thing altogether. So you have to think, if you are delivering or your customer is coming to you, who is that customer? If you are going to be selling to another place of retail, or you're getting someone to sell to you, then you have to think about your capacity. How much can I make and how frequently? So you may say, all right, I know someone in Massey or True Value or Extra Food. They're supplying all the stores, but you really can only supply one. So you've got to be very, very careful. Your location, your customer's location, and then now we're in the whole world of digital. If you're going into business, this is not an option. 5.8G, we are alive. A lot of us still resistant technology. It is not hard. You will have to develop a digital footprint. You're going to have to establish a Facebook page that announces your product. You will have to probably establish some kind of digital payment, whether it is you allow people to make transfers through electronic banking, whether you set up an e-commerce platform, but all of these things are so important. So you know what you want to do. Second point is, who is your customer? And I hope that you understand that that customer is not just your friend and your family. As I said, there are 5 things that define a customer. So let's go through them very quickly. Do they need or want your product? Make sure that they really do need it. You might make something real fancy, and the person really wants something simple. Or your product might be just too simple for what the person wants. So you have to make sure your product matches the need. The second thing is, make sure it's the decision maker you're talking to. All right? That you may have to influence more than one person to ensure that you get the sale. The user isn't always the decision maker. If it's something that's being used by a child, your customer may really be mommy or daddy who has to pay. All right? And then we talked about the ability to pay. You might like it, you might want it, but if you can't pay for it, then you're not a customer. Also, how soon do you want it? You know, you might tell me about making a pantsuit for you for Christmas, but I need funds immediately. So I'll put you down as a future customer. And then how do we reach your customer? These are very important issues that you must consider when you are thinking of entering the entrepreneurial path. As I said before, the issue of your income flows into the next 30 years to 2050, sorry. It's important. You may not be able to live off of your pension and your NIS or your savings. And you're going to have to use some of your skills to create income flows. It's not hard. It's not hard, but it requires that you sit down and think. So last week we talked about what can you do? And this week we talked about who is likely to be a customer. And as I said last week, this is a 3-part episode. So now that we have a sense of who can be our customer, next week we're going to sit down and talk about being organized. Because when we listen to our Minister of Finance and we listen even to the international organizations talking about all the help that's available for small and medium enterprises, for startups, for new entrepreneurs, the single thing that prevents a lot of us from being able to access help is we're not organized. We don't have a company registered. We don't have a document trail. We don't track our transactions. And I know that many people have all kinds of reasons for thinking why I should not do this. But next week, I have a special guest who's going to talk to us about being organized and showing you that it is not easy. So I hope that you got a lot from this episode of Being Dawala Savvy and Claiming Your Worth. And I look forward to seeing you next week.